Welcome back to this year's episode of the Watch Before You Die podcast. We do this podcast about as frequently as life allows, which is not very frequently. This time around, we are re-ranking one of the films we have watched before. So if you've been here before, you know we've watched 20-ish movies or so, and we've given them a score and a review. We are going to go back in this episode and choose one movie each and give it a new score, whether good or bad. We have done this once before. It didn't go according to plan. Those scores and episode has disappeared into the stratosphere, but I believe Brian might have a little bit of what we talked about, at least what movies we re-ranked maybe, and what we gave them. So
as Ben said, we have done this once before. The rules for our re-rank episode is you can go back through. We're going to try to do these every 10 movies, so we're at 20 right now. And this will be our second one. What we're going to do is go back through, and if you wanted to revisit just one score each time, you can go back. So with this episode, all 20 movies are fair game, but our first episode, there were only 10 movies, and by some miracle, without talking to each other, by some coincidence, we all chose the same movie. We all chose the first movie that we watched, Phantom Thread, and we all wanted to adjust our score on Phantom Thread, and none of us went down either. We all adjusted for better because we all agreed that in retrospect it was actually one of the better movies that we had watched up to that point. So Ben, your score didn't raise that much. It went from a 7.8 to an 8.1. Mine went from a 6 to a 7.5, so mine rose quite a bit. And Justin doubled his score all the way up to a 10 from an 8.1. I guess it's not doubled. He maxed it out. He put it at the top. So So that's what episode 1 was. Like Ben said, the only thing that didn't go according to plan was the computer that we recorded that on crashed. We lost the footage of it. So those scores are already reflected on our list. But now, fair game. We have 20. I mean, you could technically keep on tweaking that Phantom Thread score if you wanted to. But any movie is up for grabs. So, Justin, what movie did you choose? And how will you be adjusting it? Or Ben? Either of you jump in there.
Now, Justin can go. Pick us a movie, Justin.
The movie I'm going to be adjusting is The Pale Face.
Okay.
All right.
And I'm going to be bringing it up to a 10. No, I'm not. I'm not actually going to do that.
No, you're not. Yeah, we in the small council actually would reject that score. It would not be approved for the scoreboard.
No, Paleface was a very bizarre movie. I find some of the slapstick stuff very funny. And sort of nostalgic to, and I mentioned this in the video, but that was sort of like the carrying factor. But the movie was it's just really, really outdated, very not kosher. Yep. I don't even know if that's a cool thing to say anyway. But I gave it what did I give it? A 7.0. And I think it got carried through on like the Bob Hope nostalgia train. But I'm actually going to bring that down because I don't want it rubbing shoulders with, the way that I rated like Citizen 4, Goodbye Lenin, those movies, I thought were better than this, and certainly not as offensive, I guess would be a good way of saying it. So I'm gonna bring my 7.0 score on The Pale Face down to probably a 4.5.
4.5. That makes you the lowest score. You went from the highest to the lowest on that movie. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of those hindsight things.
I don't know if
that's quite the re-rank.
I am usually very forgiving on a lot of these movies, very gracious. So
I think there are a lot of movies. I don't know if they're on this list, but there are some movies that could only have been made in the time that they were made, right? And that has to do with some of the jokes, some of the language that's used, some of the and sometimes that can't be overlooked, and sometimes that's just a little bit too big of a factor.
And I think if we're making this list in 2022, 2023, if we're doing this and rating this list, it's got to be from our perspectives here, not way back in the day.
I think that's fair. All right, that brings that movie's average score down to a 5.0. It puts us, we're at 5.0, 5.5, and 4.5. So just a bang average movie.
Yeah.
Until we all choose this one as well.
That would be funny if we did.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna let Brian go next because I'm wrestling.
Okay.
I thought I had my movie selected, but I'm wrestling with which one I want to re-rank at this point.
Okay.
So, Brian, what do you got?
I'm going to revisit Drugstore Cowboy this time. I had the lowest rank on Drugstore Cowboy. Ben, you had that at an 8.3. Justin had it at 7.9, and I had it at 7.2. My main
Okay.
concerns with Drugstore Cowboy were I just couldn't get behind the acting. I really didn't like the supporting role in that movie. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, oh, I kind of want to rewatch that movie. And I really did like how Matt Dillon acted it out and everything. And I really liked the plot of it and kind of the open ending of like, is he actually off the drugs for good, or is he back into, like, how does it end? So I would like to raise my score. I think I'm going to go from a 7.2 to a 7.9. So I'm keeping it in the sevens, but I am lifting that score up, and that will bring the average score to an 8.
Right on.
I think that's fair. I liked that movie quite a lot. It's it is one that I want to rewatch again. So I think that says something to the what we talk a lot about on this podcast, if you're new, is rewatchability. That's always a huge thing we discuss. And a lot of movies get ranked lower because of rewatchability. And the fact that Brian, of all people, is saying he would like to rewatch it says a lot about how that movie landed with us. I guess it's my turn.
I can stall for you for a minute. As we're naming these movies, if you haven't watched these episodes, I'll be linking these episodes. So make sure to go check them out, see what we think of them.
Perfect.
Because there are some real diamonds in there, and there are also some real let's not say diamonds in there.
Yes, there are this list, these 20 movies. We might have watched some of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life in
100%.
these 20 movies, which is hard to imagine with the random selection that we're doing, but they are pretty close to some of the worst movies I've seen. And that being said, I am going to revisit one as well. And I went back and forth between the two you chose, which is funnily enough. I actually thought about giving Drugstore Cowboy a higher rating because I do. When I look at this list and I see the movies we've seen, it does rank quite high for me. But I actually am going to land on Paleface, and I am going to go lower with it because the more I think about it, the less I can find that I would ever enjoy seeing again. And I gave City Lights, if you're familiar with City Lights, I gave City Lights a 3.7. And I just can't sit and let the Paleface be higher. So the Paleface is actually going to be like a 3.5 for me. Because I would rather watch City Lights again than I would that movie, and I just didn't enjoy City Lights at all. So
fair.
I'm gonna drop the Paleface even lower than it was after Justin's re-rank.
New score update. Its average score is now down to a 4.5. We're just picking on it at this point.
Good for us.
Good for us.
Good for us.
It's already dead.
Yeah.
For justice.
Yeah, it's already dead. Stop killing it. So that's I think that turned out well.
That's a pretty
I
good
like that you
re-rank.
chose Drugstore Cowboy, by the way, because I did want to maybe go a little bit higher with that. That movie was quite good.
Definitely a good movie, and like you said, some of the movies that we've hit in the last 20, there are definitely some of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life.
Absolutely.
That we've waded through. There was one movie I watched by myself that you guys didn't watch. I should re-rank that one down to nothing. That was one of the worst movies I've ever watched. So suffice it to say, I'm very thankful that we have hit some good movies that I never would have seen had it not been for the list. So Drugstore Cowboy is one of those.
Yep, absolutely. I think, if you watched last year's episode, I don't know when we came out with that last couple months episode, we had actually re-rolled. We're going to be watching Closely Watched Trains. A few of us have already watched it, and we'll be giving you that rank soon. But I do think we should re-roll on this one.
Okay.
Because I want a new movie to watch, and I've already finished Closely Watched Trains. And so we probably just won't have a
look forward to.
Yeah, exactly. We probably won't have a re-roll in the Closely Watched Trains episode. We can make a decision later, but
okay. I have also finished Closely Watched Trains. Not to point any fingers on who has yet to finish the movie.
No one had any doubts.
That episode will be coming soon. But let me see how many movies we have remaining here, and then I'll roll a new movie. You're putting me on the spot to prove that this is random, right?
Put you on the spot. Yeah.
Also, next month when the next episode comes out, it'll be right at about a year of since we uploaded the.
And we have not watched nearly as movies as we claimed we would.
Well, technically, if we did one every other week, we would get 26 episodes a year. Right?
It's not bad.
We're at 2021. Right, we're not that far off. We didn't slack.
It's
that
decent.
Much. We could do better. We might do better.
100%.
Life is kind of busy.
We will build back this channel better.
Maybe
we will make this channel great again. No.
Right. Let's get the rank.
We're gonna cut him off. We have 1,224 movies remaining. Our next movie is number 823, kind of in the middle.
Okay. I'm gonna say 1980s.
1980s. I'm gonna go 1985.
1989, and I have heard of this movie, Field of Dreams.
Yes! Oh, okay.
We know this movie.
Yeah, Field of Dreams. We are familiar with this one. And
I'm a big fan of Kevin Costner.
Most people who would watch this would be familiar with it, but if you are not, I'll give you a quick rundown. Field of Dreams is a 1989 American sports fantasy drama film. It stars Kevin Costner as a farmer who builds a baseball field in his cornfield that attracts the ghosts of baseball legends. So, I think I maybe have seen this movie one time as a child, and I could not remember it beyond that. So, this would be fairly new for me. Yeah. I don't remember much of it at all. I know this is like a quotable movie, I think, for people.
Looks like
obviously not for me.
Looks like it's available on Netflix and Netflix with ads and Stars TV, all for free, for rent from Amazon and Apple TV. And it's rated PG. Perfect. And I know that this movie is a classic, so I would encourage everybody to watch it. Our next movie, 1989, Field of Dreams.
Cool.
That's Kevin Costner's eyebrows. Shout out.
Uh-oh.
While I'm watching Field of Dreams, Justin will be watching Closely Watched Trains. And we will see you for a new episode very soon.